You are Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What is going on, Nuggets Nation, and welcome on into your Locked On Nuggets postcast here, a Saturday matinee edition of the program. Hope everyone is staying warm out there. It's chilly in the Mile High City, and keeping your head up as Denver today with a non-competitive effort against the Minnesota Timberwolves as Denver loses 133-104 in this matchup. And it's, I was off a couple of shows. I was dealing with some voice stuff. My voice was all raspy, and they're playing great basketball. Jokic triple-double, boom, 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 win, win, win. And of course, I'm feeling ready to go in the game that I'm back. They lay an egg and they just get absolutely mollywopped by the Minnesota Timberwolves here this afternoon. But we'll break it all down. Welcome on into the show. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. Also, do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and smash that subscribe button as well on your Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. Really helps me out as I'm building this channel up brick by brick. But man, we'll get into some individual player stats throughout the course of the show. But I was able to kind of catch the ending, or I guess the beginning technically, of the postgame show on ESPN. And look, it's Stephen A. Smith, it's Malika Andrews, it's Kendrick Perkins, right? You're never going to get, you're going to get the national point of view when you're hearing from those people, right? And I like how Stephen A. actually came out and said, this is just, you can't really judge this game because Denver didn't really come up to play. And we've seen Denver throughout the course of this season. I believe that first game against Minnesota was also on national TV where they blew it there at the end. Denver, national TV, matinee, right? It just never seems to go their way, at least this season for sure for the Denver Nuggets. But, just really a throwaway game. And I forget which postcast it was, but I did one recently where it was the game where Jokic wasn't playing. I forget who that was against off the top of my head. But it's kind of a similar dynamic to this game where, look, you had all your guys out there, but Minnesota just, for all the problems that the Timberwolves have throughout the course of this season, I mean, they're a play-in team right now at 24-21, which is crazy to think about considering what the expectation for this Wolves team is. But Minnesota gets up for this Denver Nuggets team, man. That's probably the simplest way that I could put it, is Minnesota always consistently, Karl Anthony Towns or no Karl Anthony Towns, has put their best foot forward when they know they have to play the Denver Nuggets. And look, we've talked about it time and time again. We understand that Minnesota is a team in theory that was built to slow down and limit Nikola Jokic and be a pain in this Denver Nuggets team side just because of who the architect of this team is and former Denver Nuggets GM Tim Conley. But still, I mean, it's just no excuse for this Denver Nuggets team to just, it's weird. It's not like they've lost every game in recent memory. They've kind of gone back and forth here. Now, this is what I believe 3 consecutive losses, though, I should say. But in the regular season last year, there were some battles. And, just today for the Denver Nuggets, man, just not a whole lot to write home about. Nikola Jokic's 5 consecutive games with a triple-double comes to an end. What's most surprising to me about that with Jokic and the triple-doubles is it was the rebounds that he did not get tonight. Of course, he finishes with a double-double, 20 and 11 points and assists, but only 3 rebounds for Nikola Jokic. I mean, whenever it comes to the triple-double, it seems like the assist is the one that is always kind of on the fritz in regards to will they get over the hump, will they not? With Jokic with the triple-double, but today it was the rebounds. And look, you got Rudy Gobert. There's a ton of length throughout the course of this Minnesota Timberwolves lineup, right? You got Julius Randle now, just a ton of scrappy guys that play a really physical brand of defense. And we'll do probably an entire segment here on Michael Porter Jr. because he really struggled today, and he's been a bit up and down really for the last few weeks. So we'll kind of dive into Michael Porter Jr., especially with the trade deadline now, like a couple of weeks away, I think, maybe 3.5-ish weeks away. I believe it's the middle of February. So, it's interesting. I'm not putting much stock in the outcome of this game. Of course, it's disappointing. But this is also a Denver Nuggets team that entering into this game here today has been riding high, with win after win after win. Let's see, that was a 5-game win streak for Denver. Miami, Orlando, Philadelphia, and Sacramento. So, you're going to lose some of these games. It's unfortunate to do it on national TV. It's unfortunate for that to come against the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I don't think this loss today does not make me think like, oh my gosh, this team can't contend. Oh my gosh, this team needs to trade MPJ immediately. Like, it's basketball. It's professional sports, and I've said it time and time again. On this Locked On Sports Denver postcast with the Nuggets in particular, I've covered every single major sport in this town with a credential up close and personal. So I've been around NBA players, I've been around NHL players, MLB, NFL, college players as well up there at CU, and I don't know what it is, but the NBA seems to be the one league more than the others where sometimes teams just like don't play hard. They don't have it. And in the middle of the game, when they look, when they deem to be kind of getting their rear ends kicked, not that they wave the white flag, but it's just kind of like they coast to the end of the game, right? Like as bad as the Rockies are, and I understand a lot of it's up to the starting pitcher and whatnot. Like the guys are trying every night. And not to say that Denver didn't necessarily try today, but it was far from their best effort. And I think Denver, kind of feeling themselves a little bit after these wins, right? They took a little bit of a day off today in regards to what we've seen from this Denver Nuggets team at a high level throughout the course of the season. Look, there's been some down. Think back to that Knick game. I think back to the game against Minnesota earlier this year. I think back to the Washington loss, right? But for the most part this year, Denver's been tied with Oklahoma City for the best record in the NBA since the calendar flipped to 2025. So look, you got to take this game with a bit of a grain of salt. They've got Chicago now coming up on the 27th. So that's on Monday. And we'll have to see how they kind of get back on track here. But for today, man, it is a disappointing 133-104 loss for the Denver Nuggets. And real quick, I forgot to mention this off the top. Today's episode of your Locked On Nuggets postcast is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. From the first whistle to the final drive, FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. Just visit FanDuel.com to get started. More from our friends over at FanDuel here in just a little bit. But if you guys got some thoughts, comments, whatever it might be, go ahead and drop those. We'll go back and forth here as we get rolling here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast on your Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. But I understand, how a lot of Denver Nugget fans are going to be frustrated. The timeline was in flames today up there on social media. A lot of people upset with the overall performance and how it all went today for Denver. And I can't disagree with really anything that was said. I would like to see Peyton Watson maybe get a little bit more run in a game like this, just because, like, let's see tonight, Peyton Watson only 18 minutes played, and a lot of those came in garbage time late. I would have liked to see Peyton Watson get a little bit more involved in this game just because of how he matches up with these physical players in Minnesota. And I understand, like, one of my critiques, I guess you could say, of Peyton Watson has been totally raw player, needs to work on the fundamentals. But where you need length, energy, and size against this Minnesota Timberwolves team, outside of your starters, Peyton Watson's probably the one guy that you can go to that can help, on the defensive side of the ball. Obviously his offense is really, really raw, but trying to match up with Gobert and some of these other guys down low to get some boards, you need a little bit of that scrappiness that I feel like Peyton Watson can play with. So that would be my one big criticism, I guess you could say, of how Michael Malone managed this game today. I'd like to see a little bit more P-Watt out there. Aaron Gordon continuing to come off the bench, and we'll talk about that as well from a big picture perspective throughout the course of the show. But, the simplest way that I could put it here today, folks, is Minnesota just wanted this game. Minnesota just, Denver never had a lead in this game. It was a wire-to-wire victory for the Minnesota Timberwolves this afternoon. And, like Bob Myers was saying, the former Golden State Warriors GM on ESPN as I was getting set up to do the show, like, there's two ways to look at it. There's bad game on to the next, and then there's the sustainability aspect of it. Is we've seen Denver kind of have these moments, lay these eggs throughout the course of the season against these quality teams, and a team in particular in Minnesota that has been a thorn in their side for the last few years. And so it's frustrating. I know the Nugget fan wants to, you wake up today, you're getting ready to go to bed last night thinking about this game. And you're thinking like, oh, we got a chance to go out there. We're playing really well. We've got 5 straight wins. Jokic 5 straight triple doubles. We're going to go out there. We're going to do this thing. We're going to get our get back on Minnesota for the last few games we've played against them. And it's not going to happen. Right. So it's frustrating from the fans' perspective, without a doubt. I get that. But I don't think internally in the building, they're going to sweat this one too much, which is frustrating. I get it. But what more is there really to say about this game today? It was just a non-existent, pitiful effort today from the Denver Nuggets. Nobody, everyone was obviously in the negative in the box plus minuses. They never had a lead in this game. I mean, Jamal Murray was your leading scorer with 25. So I guess that's good that Jamal, consistently now here has been playing pretty well. He did a good job of trying to keep Denver in this game in the first half, but it just wasn't enough. Didn't get enough contributions across the board from the other guys. Jokic did his thing. Russ, doing his thing as well. But MPJ, I think a loss like today is where MPJ's deficiencies really shine through, which is why there's still half of the Nuggets fans out there that want to trade him and the other half that want to keep him. And I know my guy, Ryan Blackburn, our writer over at Mile High Sports and your host of your Locked On Nuggets podcast with Matt Moore and Swipecam, he was getting on MPJ a little bit, kind of maybe thinking that today could be a breakout game, but he does not handle the physicality that Minnesota plays with very well. So why don't we use that to hit our first break? When we come back, let's go over some of the stats in this game, but in particular, we'll talk a little Michael Porter Jr. as he really struggled today. And I think it kind of opens up into a little bit of a bigger conversation with MPJ about who he is, what he needs to be for this team if they want to try to go out there and win an NBA championship this year. So we'll hit a quick break. We'll come back and do just that. As I always like to say, guys, drop some comments. Let me know how you're feeling out there. I'm the host of the show, but you, the fan, the listener, the subscriber, are the ones that help me carry the conversation. So let me know how you're feeling out there as Denver gets destroyed 133-104 on this Saturday afternoon. Hit a quick break, come back, and do just that right here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, let me tell you about our friends over at FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win your first bet. That's $300 to keep the action going from the first whistle to the final drive. FanDuel makes the NFL playoffs even more exciting. The FanDuel app is easy to navigate, and the variety of bets keeps every game exciting. Plus, when you win, you get paid instantly. No waiting around for your winnings, whether you're betting on your favorite team or just looking to add some extra excitement to the playoffs. FanDuel has you covered. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $300 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. For anybody that was on the Nuggets this afternoon, sorry about that. But we've got an incredible slate of NFL action coming up tomorrow. Obviously, we've got the Commanders and the Eagles. We've got the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs. So make sure to get in on that FanDuel app, take advantage of that promotion, and let them know that Locked On Nuggets sent you. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Nuggets postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. Do me a favor, if you're watching on YouTube, appreciate y'all as always. Hit that like button, smash that subscribe button on your Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. That way you guys never, ever miss an episode of your Locked On Nuggets postcast. But tough loss this afternoon for Denver, 133-104. Minnesota now at 24-21 on the season. Denver falls to 28-17. And as I mentioned, they had been off to a fast and furious start in 2021. I mean, they have done a really good job. One of the best teams in the NBA over the last, nearly a month here. So we'll see if they can, shake this one off onto the next, as Denver's currently let's see here, 8.5 games behind Oklahoma City for the 1 seed in the Western Conference. So that's probably a pipe dream, but, still going to be an upper echelon Western Conference playoff team if they can continue to play like they have been for a majority of this month. Again, Denver was on a 5-game winning streak entering into this matchup, wins against the Heat, Magic, 76ers, and Kings, before ultimately losing today, snapping that streak to the Minnesota Timberwolves 133-104. But let's talk a little Michael Porter Jr. here if we can. He did not have a great afternoon. He did go 3 of 6 from 3, so you like the percentage there. 50% was MPJ from beyond the arc, but only 11 points, so he makes 1 bucket. Beyond that does MPJ, 2 assists, no rebounds. And I think that's the thing, is MPJ is averaging close to 5 or 6 in between. Well, why don't I just pull it up? I'm going to guess he's at 5.5 per game. Oh, he's actually higher than that, 6.5 rebounds a game. So, this is a guy that's, he's not going to get you double-digit rebounds every game. We've seen him do that, throughout the course of the season, of course, and his career. But he's a guy that can go out there and clean some glass. He's a tall guy, not necessarily very brawny, a little bit skinnier, but he can go up there and use his athleticism to grab some boards. And I think when a guy like MPJ today has no rebounds, what did I just say in the first segment? He's a guy that struggles with physicality. And Minnesota is one of the scrappier teams in the NBA when it comes to cleaning the glass and just putting pressure on opposing teams' offenses. And as I mentioned, when Minnesota knows they're playing the Denver Nuggets, they go from here to through the roof in regards to their energy and effort level. And Michael Porter Jr. has consistently struggled against this Minnesota Timberwolves team in recent memory. And I just think the fact that he was an 0-4 today on the rebounds really speaks volumes to that overall physicality factor with MPJ. Like I said, he goes 3 of 6 from 3. So you like that, but finishes with just 11 points, a couple of assists, had a turnover, and a couple of fouls, but it really just not enough today for Michael Porter Jr. And look, MPJ is also probably one of the streakiest players in the NBA. Like when he is on, I mean, he takes this Denver Nuggets team to another level with his three-point shooting, his ability to get some rebounds, hit down the knockdown shot, sit in the corner, knock that down. Like when all that's working for Michael Porter Jr., man, the Denver Nuggets are a tough team to beat, but Minnesota's been a bit of his kryptonite. And look, I've said it before on this show, in the last handful of episodes, I don't think Denver's making a massive move at the trade deadline. I don't, nor do I think they should. I think this core is good enough, especially if you have Aaron Gordon coming off the bench here a little bit, get a little bit more creative with how you want to disperse some of these minutes if you're Michael Malone. But it comes down to assuming they don't make any massive moves. Can you rely on your core guys to go out there and get the job done? Right now, honestly, like this very moment, I think there's one person on this team that you can basically, rest your head at night saying, okay, like we know this guy's going to go out there and perform and he's going to get the job done for us and he's going to be otherworldly and win his 4th MVP. That's Nikola Jokic, right? But everybody else, as good as Jamal has been over the course of January, as good as Michael Porter Jr. has been in spurts, as good as Aaron Gordon's been in spurts, how reliable is that? And the only knock on AG, and it's not even a knock because you can't really control it, is the injuries. That's why I don't include him in that confidence section, because when AG's out there, you feel great. But already twice this season, he's been sidelined with the same calf injury. You hope that it doesn't linger, throughout the course of this season. But, Nikola Jokic is the one guy. Like I'm watching the Celtics and the Mavericks here as they're battling it out in a rematch here of the NBA Finals. Like Boston has, 3 or 4 guys that you feel pretty confident will perform on a night in and night out basis. You got Tatum, you've got Brown, Derek White's been awesome. Kristaps Porzingis has been awesome. Drew Holiday's been great for them, right? And it just feels like if one of them has an off night, you've got enough, gas left in the tank to try to counter and stick around in these games while the others try to kind of pick it up to speed. Denver goes as Jokic goes. And, Jokic had a fine game today. Like I said, only 3 rebounds for him, 20 points and 11 assists. So he was doing his thing. Although there was a stretch there in between the second and third quarters where he didn't take a shot. So we saw a little bit of that passive Jokic mode. But again, is that because that they kind of acknowledged in their heads that they probably weren't going to win this game and they just didn't have the juice? Well, maybe. Like, you know what I'm saying? But point being is, when Jokic is not playing otherworldly, like who's going to be the guy that steps up and shoulder the load? And Jamal did that in the first half, but it's not enough. I just gave you 4 or 5 guys on Boston that you feel confident that if you need a shot, they can knock it down. If you need tight defense, they can clamp it up, right? And so to bring it back to MPJ, his flaws are so apparent in games like today. And that's easy to say when he doesn't have a good game, but in matchups like today, which when you get to the NBA playoffs and the pressure cooker gets turned up, everything just kind of sticks around and it lingers, with these types of players. So MPJ is also a very rhythm, energy, momentum type of guy. And you just saw that he was off his game from the moment this one started today. So you like the 3-point shooting, hit half of his shots from 3, but really that's about it today for MPJ. Defense was, lackluster, and just the confidence appeared to be a bit shaken today for Michael Porter Jr. on the court. So it's frustrating. Looking at the other stats here today, as I said, MPJ with 11, Jokic with 20, Russ had 13, Jamal with 25, CB with 10, Gordon with 13 off the bench, P-Watt with a couple of points off the bench, 18 minutes for him, and that's really it. I mean, everybody got some run today except for Dario Saric, just because this game was essentially over and done with by the time we got to the fourth quarter. I think Nuggets fans knew this game was over by the time we were at half, as Denver gave up 40 points in the first quarter. They scored 31, but when you give up 40, man, I mean, that is just, it's going to take another worldly Nikola Jokic game or you're pretty much cooked. So that's kind of where we're at with the Denver Nuggets in this one. Frustrating loss, but one that I'm just not going to, Call me a homer, call me whatever you want to call me. I know that they're better than this. I've seen it. So, they have these clunker types of games. Everybody does. Boston's lost 14 games this year. Denver is still, when the games are on the line, the pressure gets cooked up. I am confident in Nikola Jokic's ability to help lead this team to where they want to go. So that's kind of where I'm at. A frustrating game, but one that we have to kind of turn the page on either way. So let me hit my final break, guys. When we come back, we'll get ready to put a bow on the show. A little thought on Aaron Gordon and Michael Malone's team today got beat in like every department that Michael Malone preaches about. We'll go over some of those numbers and get you guys on your way here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Stick with me, folks. Back in just a moment. All right, you guys, let me tell you about our friends over at TalkSpace. Therapy is a game changer. It can help manage stress, improve sleep, and communicate more effectively. But finding the right therapist and fitting sessions into a busy schedule can be a challenge. That's where TalkSpace comes in. TalkSpace, the leading virtual therapy provider, makes getting the help you need easy, accessible, and affordable. With TalkSpace, signing up is simple. You can match with a licensed therapist who fits your needs, usually within 48 hours, and it's convenient. You can have sessions from the comfort of your home and even message your therapist in between your appointments. Plus, TalkSpace is covered by many insurance plans, and for most insured members, there's a $0 copay. It's never been easier to prioritize your mental health. As a listener of this podcast, you'll get $80 off your first month with TalkSpace when you go to TalkSpace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code SPACE80, SPACE 80 to match with a licensed therapist today. Go to TalkSpace.com/LockedOnNBA and enter promo code SPACE80 to get $80 off your first month and show your support for the show. That's TalkSpace.com/LockedOnNBA, promo code SPACE80. Check out our friends over at TalkSpace and let them know that Locked On Nuggets sent you. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Nuggets postcast. I'm your host, Aniello Piro. Hope everybody in Nugget land is doing well out there despite a tough loss for the boys this afternoon. 133-104, your final score. We'll finish with some Aaron Gordon thoughts, but real quick, just kind of going through some of the numbers here. I mean, Denver got crushed in every major statistical category today. I mean, they were outshot from the field. They shot 48.9%. Minnesota shot 55.8%. Crushed from three-point land. Denver shot 34.4%. Minnesota 14 for 30, 46.7%. Free throw percentage, they got killed there. Minnesota shot 86% from the free throw line, 53.8% for Denver. Rebounds, 45 for Minnesota to Denver's 36. It just goes on and on. Assists, 38 for Minnesota, 32 for Denver. Steals, 14 for Minnesota, 7 for Denver. More blocks, 4 blocks for Minnesota, 3 for Denver. And, Denver lost the turnover battle here as well. 20 turnovers compared to 16 for Minnesota. Those 20 turnovers resulted in 37 points for the Minnesota Timberwolves, and Denver also conceded 16 fast break points in this game, as well as 72 points in the paint compared to just 58 for the good guys. And Minnesota led this game by as many as 29 as they get the job done here today. So, it's an ugly one. It's an ugly game. It's one that no one is going to be happy about. No Nugget fan is going to come away feeling good after this game, but I also don't think, as I mentioned, that this is a game to get totally worked up over and lose sleep over and pull your hair out over. Like, it's just they won 5 games before leading up to this one, guys. Like, they're fine, right? They're gonna they're gonna make the playoffs. Excuse me. You can see I'm still getting over what I was dealing with. They're gonna make the playoffs. They're gonna be a quality team, and hopefully they're gonna go on a run. And I'm very curious to see how Calvin Booth handles the home stretch of this trade period, right? About 3-ish weeks until the trade deadline. We'll see what, if any, moves Denver ends up trying to make to try to improve this team. And I've said before, I think the move for Denver to make is look for some spot up shooting. I mean, you need 3-and-D. That's what you need. Is you need someone that can knock down a shot and play defense. Unfortunately, that is like the hottest commodity in the NBA. So if Denver's going to make a trade, it's going to be at a pretty high price, pretty high tax you think it would come with. They don't have many tradable assets. So, we'll have to see how that all kind of plays out. But don't let this game bother you, man. I think Denver will be just fine here moving forward. And we'll close on this. Aaron Gordon today off the bench. He's been coming off the bench ever since he returned from the injury. 25 minutes today for AG, 2 of 5 from 3. 3 rebounds. You want to see him up that, couple of assists, and 13 points. look, and I know that it doesn't work out today because this would have been much better if it was the last couple of games. So selfless of Aaron Gordon, who just signed a big contract extension and took less money to stay in Denver, to be willing to come off the bench. And I'm a big AG guy. You know, we just had him on the cover of our Mile High Sports magazine. Go check that out, milehighsports.com. But it is one of those situations where that might be the key, where if Denver doesn't make any massive moves ahead of the trade deadline, a guy like Aaron Gordon being able to step up and say, Coach, let this Westbrook, Jokic, Murray combination get some more run because it's working. You know, those are the types of things that can help push this team where they want to go without necessarily having all the pieces in place, right? They're not as good as they were when they won the chip. They probably aren't as good as they were last year. The difference is Nikola Jokic is better this year than he was in the last 2 years. So how are the guys around Nikola Jokic going to match that and play that complementary basketball that we've all come to know and love from the Denver Nuggets over the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, however long it's been with Joker? It's crazy to think about how long it's been. But, you know, just selfless Aaron Gordon. I know it doesn't work out today. They lose, they get crushed, didn't have a lead, whatever it might be. But I just think you've seen Denver kind of find their groove with Russell Westbrook and with Nikola and Jamal picking it up as well. And the fact that Aaron Gordon is providing some of that flexibility to Coach Malone to do, you know, what he sees fit without having to worry about the ego, I think will take this team a long way. So just wanted to get some closing thoughts in on that. Looking at the Nuggets' upcoming schedule before we get out of here, as I mentioned, they've got Chicago on Monday. They should win that game, you would expect. And then they've got a couple of interesting games. So they're on this is a 5-game road trip that Denver is currently on. So at Minnesota today, the first of the road trip, bad loss there. They go to Chicago on Monday. They play the Knicks at the Garden on Wednesday. And then probably no Joel Embiid. I don't know. We'll see. They play the 76ers in Philly on Friday before finishing up the road trip at Charlotte. So, I mean, you, of these next 4 games, you're looking for Denver to win 3 or 4. I mean, they should beat Chicago. They should beat Philly. They should beat Charlotte. I mean, they could very well beat New York as well. So, you know, you want to see them get back on track, and then they come home for 3 games against, you know, pretty 2 of the 3 winnable, both again, or 2 games in a row against New Orleans on the 3rd and the 5th, and then home versus Orlando, the team they just beat pretty thoroughly, 113-100 on the 19th. So that's kind of your upcoming little sample size here for the Denver Nuggets. We'll see if they can bounce back on Monday against the Chicago Bulls. But all right, guys, that is going to do it for me here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Appreciate y'all as always. If you're watching on YouTube, do me a favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button on your Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. You guys can also follow me on social media at Media by AP. Bad loss today for Denver. They'll try to bounce back on Monday against Chicago. But that's it for me today. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Talk to you guys on Monday.